right. Welcome, beautiful audience, and welcome to my amazing guest, Kim Bogert.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here today, Kim. How are you?
Jen, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm
Oh,
doing really well on this gorgeous Charlotte hot now day.
I know, right? I love when I can have the windows open next to me and hear the birds. I feel like it's so much easier to get into the flow with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of your conversation with Carrie the other day and her backdrop with the sun flowing down on her. I was like, that's
I
what I
know. Weren't
want.
you like, I need to cut a hole in my roof now and
Right.
get a skylight on there?
Exactly. Carrie, have me over for tea.
Oh, and gosh, and speaking of which, I don't have it with me, but I was gonna show everyone a teaser because in that episode I shared I was getting my wallpaper samples for my dark purple
Oh,
sparkly accent wall. I held it up in a video yesterday and it looked really good.
oh,
So
nice.
very excited for that.
That's fun.
So you all, this is a pretty new series. Um, this is kind of really a compliment to my Coaching Misunderstood solo series that's been going on for a while. And it is something that I saw that I could easily do to, I guess the best way to say it is really be a stand and advocate for the field of professional coaching. Kim and I actually went through the same training. We didn't do it together. We met after, but it's really, relatively speaking, a new field. There's not a lot of structure. There's not a lot of regulation. And so I think a lot of people hire a coach and they might not really be coaching. So this is just to kind of shed light. And it's to dispel the myths and to let you know what it really is. And so Kim and I are going to be talking today about, now this is kind of like mind blowing the way it looks, right? Using structure to create freedom. That's right, you all. That's what I said. I said structure to create freedom. And some of you are probably like, what? That sounds like the least free thing I've heard. But before we get going, I just want to give you, Kim, a brief introduction here so everybody knows this amazing being that I'm with. So, you all, Kim Bogert is a life coach. She's also a grief recovery specialist, mindfulness and meditation teacher, and an MBSR practitioner. And Kim, before I read the rest, what does that acronym stand for in case anyone's wondering?
Mind body stress reduction.
Okay, I'm pretty sure every human watching this could use some of that in
Mhm.
this fast paced world.
Absolutely.
And so Kim works with individuals and groups using mindfulness based techniques to cope with grief, reduce stress, and cultivate personal growth. Her work is inspired by her own journey of loss and post-traumatic growth. With her compassionate and nurturing presence, Kim offers grief and meditation coaching as a way for people to heal, to create space in their hearts so that they can start feeling the good things in life again. And Kim, I love that because before I was doing the guest version, and man, you would have been the guest for this had I been doing it, but I have actually already done a solo video about how coaching is a tool to move someone through grief with more facility.
Yeah. It's different. I mean, it's not, classical, it's not counseling. So
Yeah.
it's very different. And I like to, um, make that difference quite upfront with people. Like it's not about counseling. Yes, there are therapeutic elements to grief coaching. Coaching in general is
Yeah.
therapeutic, right? But it's not therapy. It's not
Right.
counseling.
Right. Yeah. And so you all, right off the bat, what the ways you can contact Kim, they're going to be down in the copy of wherever you're watching this. Um, Sounds like a really, really awesome niche, particularly after the last year everyone has gone through.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A lot of grief we've all experienced to, some degree over the past year.
Yeah.
And me, myself, I've experienced, of course, global grief, like all of us. And the anxiety and stress that has come up over the past year has certainly been palpable, and also very personal grief
Yeah.
over the past year of losing my mom. So it's been kind of a double punch, in there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that work that has supported you so much.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so you all, as we're talking, like every coach on here, they're going to be looking through the lens of the niche they coach. Our dance is going to be different. So we'll be kind of playing in all kinds of areas today, and I'm excited to see where we go. So, so as you all know, I don't give the coaches who come on here much at all. So if those of you watching don't know this, true coaching is a co-creative partnership. Coach isn't coming in with this big master plan of what they're going to do with their client. I mean, if you've been with your client for a while and you're intuitive, you might have some ideas maybe of some places, but essentially you're working off the focus that your client gives you and you're playing with that. So true to coaching form, Kim basically just got this focus. And I was like, well, maybe think about how it looks in your life and your client's life. And that's it, y'all. So we're not scripted here. We're just kind of dancing. So thank you for being courageous enough. I know not everyone wants to play that game with me, and that's okay. But when I first presented this topic to you, using coaching as a tool where we get to actually create structure so as to create freedom, where again, most people are like, what? No, structure's not free. Was there like a first thing that popped into your mind when I shared that, or where did you go?
Ooh, good question. I think that I immediately went to resistance with
Mm.
the topic. Um, it's funny, the word structure for me, because I think that most of my college friends and high school friends would say that I'm the most unstructured, like free flowing kind of, hippie chick. And back when I was in accomplishment coaching, my coach then would, we would talk about structures in our coaching sessions, and she would laugh now at me bringing this up, because I was always like, ooh, yeah, no, no, we're not talking about I hate structure, like anything that's confining feeling. And that word can come across as like
Yeah.
um rigid, you
Yeah.
know if you're looking at it through that lens of rigidity, then that's when I become a little bit resistant to even just the word of no, 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 I don't like structure. But then on the other hand, there's this very structured part of me that when you send me an email just stating the theme and nothing more, I'm like, Jen, I need more structure around this. I need more like to-dos, and I need to be able to do my homework and prepare for what we're going to be talking about. So there was both of those coming in together, fighting each other. And typically with things like this, I overthink, overprocess, overanalyze what we're going to be, talking about, or what I'm going to be talking about if it's, me giving a talk. And with this, I really did like just read the theme, and then I was like, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it, and we're going to go where we go with the conversation.
I love this. So you all, if you even felt resistance in your breath, in your body, like anywhere, when you started hearing us, it's normal, right?
Right.
And again, I love how Kim shared her immediate reaction, because typically we are going to have one, and then when we sit with it might change. And if anyone is wondering, accomplishment coaching, that is actually the program where Kim and I each did our coaching and leadership training. So great program if anyone is looking for a program out there.
Great
No, I do not get any endorsements to say that.
program.
It's just truth. There's not a lot of great ones. And I love what you said about it can be rigid, because it can. I have found for me, if certain structures are too rigid, particularly masculine rigid, they don't work. But then I love when you got the email and you were like, but wait, there's too much flow here. There's not enough structure. I need more.
Yeah. So Jen, I hope I'm not interrupting.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no.
So it feels like then there's kind of a continuum of the word structure,
Yeah.
where on one end you have this rigid, like bound kind of feel, confined, imprisoned, all those words that feel tight. And then on the other end of this of the continuum, you've got kind of drifting. I like, I imagine a boat in the ocean that is adrift, and you have no direction whatsoever. It just goes with the wind and the elements. And then somewhere in the middle, you've got this flow that's held. And I feel like that's what you're talking about when we're talking about freedom that comes from that structure, because that structure to me is a creative support system, where it's a support where creativity can happen and flow, and therefore that leads us to that sense of freedom, and it's intentional creation within the structure.
Yeah, and I love the way you explained that, because this was not a term I don't believe I heard in our training, but a few years after our training, I went out to San Diego for not 4 months straight, but like over 4, 5, 6 months. I went out there like 4 or 5 or 6 times for another leadership training, and they for the first time really explained what the difference between going with the flow and getting lost in the drift is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people out there think they're going with the flow, but they're really on the end of that spectrum where they are actually just drifting. And so
Hmm.
I love that you mentioned that, because when that was given to us, I thought that was really powerful, because going with the flow and getting lost in the drift, they are different.
Hmm.
And so for you, it sounds like you're kind of seeing like a continuum, right? Like I imagine a line, like, like a line we get when we're learning math in grade school or something, right? And it's
Exactly.
like we've got really, really structured over here, to the point where a lot of people are probably like, whoa, taking my breath away. This is very structured.
Hmm.
And then over here, we've just kind of got this boat where it's like, man, okay, more wind is coming. Now it's going to blow over here. Oh, now
Hmm.
it's going to blow over there. Who knows where it's going to blow? But then you're proposing that there's more of this middle ground where it's more flow. So there
Hmm.
is some structure happening to it, but there's not that superstructure, and you're also not drifting.
Exactly. There's that sweet spot where you're creating a pathway forward, and you are surrounding yourself by support, another word for structure that allows for that moving motion.
Yeah, and y'all, before we started recording, Kim and I were just getting connected and chatting, and I was mentioning to her how when I used to have an employer and I had a 9 to 5, it was really structured. And I think I mean, I'm a Capricorn, a true sun sign Capricorn, so I've had to become less structured by far to thrive in life. But I think I was so concerned that I was working so much for someone else that I really wanted like to use my time well when it was my time. So I structured the heck out of my time too. And so I went from this world where everything was so planned. And then when I quit my job and started my business, I was telling Kim, like, I threw my planner away and I was like, no more structure. And I reached out to some of my entrepreneur friends and I was like, I'm unhinged. I feel like a wind has come and ripped me out of the ground. And they were like, oh, Jen, it doesn't usually work to have none at all. And so I went from like the one end of the continuum that Kim is talking about to the other. And I could feel like my boat just thrashing around in the ocean. And it felt to me like it was going to capsize.
Hmm.
So this
Yeah.
freedom I was looking for was not found there either. And I was so shocked.
And I think we find that in coaching conversations too, because if we're too, loosey goosey and adrift in a coaching conversation with clients without some sort of structure, then it
Mm,
can end up being I remember a client of mine at the end of the conversation, at the end of our, um, session, when I asked if what they got out of it, they said, well, it was a great conversation. And going back, we start out talking about what is it that you want to get from this conversation, from this session that we're going into, and then from there, kind of keeping in alignment with what they're trying to get out of the conversation, because you can easily go down these rabbit holes, which sometimes can be very helpful, as
right.
long as we're checking in and making sure that that's where we want to go with it, right? But if we're just adrift and not any structure to the conversation, can easily end up with just a great conversation without
Yeah.
getting the thing that we're trying to get, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so you all, what Kim is really pointing to there is, you know, people hire coaches because they want to create something in their world.
Mhm.
Typically, it's not something someone knows how to do on their own, or they wouldn't hire a coach. Or it might just be because they know when they're supported, they can do it more quickly because you can. But, if as a coach, if we're just like go in with the flow and we're not really checking in with where do you want to get today? How does this sync up with what you're doing big picture? Then basically we're just giving our clients a lot of great conversations. And there's nothing wrong with a great conversation,
Right.
but they're typically not what someone paid for. They're typically not going to be the thing that's going to get someone moving. And in a results oriented field, that doesn't work.
Exactly, exactly. So it's about partnering and creating awareness, helping somebody create their own awareness, designing actions as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In those conversations, which is part of the structure.
And I think, the structure of coaching is also very reflective of life outside of coaching. And if someone is resisting structure in the coaching conversation, where else are they resisting structure? And very often, it's a very clever way to not move forward.
Yeah. Yep, I've been there.
Yeah, right. For sure. Or, on the flip, um, and I've shared this before. Before I started working with a coach, um, after living alone for 9 years and having multiple traumatic experiences, you know, car crashes, things like that, I had a bit of OCD really kind of kick in because I was really feeling out of control in my world. And when I moved in here with my now partner Oliver, it came for me pretty well. So if anyone knows anything about OCD, that's a lot of freaking structure, a lot.
Mhm.
You need a lot of it to feel safe. And so I was like spending all my time trying to keep my structure structured. And so, it's a very different experience, right? Than when we talk about self-sabotaging with flow. I was self-sabotaging with structure. There was no room to even flow.
Mhm.
People used to joke and be like, are you going to write down breathe in your planner? And I was like, maybe I should.
Uh-huh. If that's a structure that would support
Right?
you.
Breathe. But literally, it was everything. So it's interesting how each side of the coin is
Yeah,
really a way where we're self-sabotaging ourselves.
exactly, exactly. And I think in there too, Jen, and I'm sure with OCD, it's a lot of to-dos, right? A lot of like making sure you're being productive and very
Yes.
busy, because then that feels like a structure that is in alignment with where our society is, frankly.
Or an
It's like,
illusion of safety, right? It was
yeah,
like, well, this is how my world feels safe,
right.
and I feel really unsafe. So we're just going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. The word self-care is what comes to mind in there, of recognizing what is really needed to feel safe. And then taking a look at, is it really filling my plate with a bunch of to-dos and busying? Is that
right?
really what has me feel safe? Or what am I
See,
avoiding in there?
and you all, as you're listening to this, and we're talking about structure, flow, and just going all over, um, again, there is not a replacement for therapy. But what I will say is, I worked with a specialist in OCD, and I'm good at strategy. And she was basically like, you've got all the compensatory strategies down. So, y'all, if you're watching this, I want to tell you, coaching for me, hands down, was one of the most impactful things I have ever tried for OCD behavior for myself.
Hmm.
Not saying it would be true for anyone watching, but for me, um, having someone help me how to start rewiring my brain to think differently was massive,
Mhm.
was massive.
And that's what I mean, so much of this is about rewiring your brain,
Yeah.
you know, and the what for behind it. Why are we wanting to create new grooves, new pathways that have
Yep.
never been, you know, found before, never been there before? We so easily go into those fall back into the old grooves, the old way of thinking. It's too easy.
And it makes me think of too, Kim and I were also chatting before we got on about how a meditation practice is a structure. And
Mhm.
I thought of that as well when you were talking about new grooves, because you do a lot of meditation work, and that is also going to rewire the brain.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, in working with people through grief, that is a structure that I've kind of built into um, this this coaching practice with people because I have found for me, the process of working through grief, building in that structure for me has been so helpful in rewiring and figuring out where it is that I'm actually coming from. Again, not therapy, just kind of looking at what those old patterns, behaviors, thinking, has been,
Yeah.
and what can I do differently and why? What's the big what for?
And you know what I'm thinking of, because you and I both do a lot of mind body stuff. And you may or may not have some of these conversations with your clients. It just depends on what they're bringing. But I have really found that knowing if the structures you're in your life are a good fit for you, if they're too loose, if they're too rigid, you can usually get a pretty visceral reaction in breath, in
Mhm.
body,
Mm.
in intuitive hits. Have you noticed that with yourself and with your clients, Kim, that there are a lot of tells? And I'm bringing this in because I'm betting people are watching and thinking, well, how do I know? How do I know if the structures I'm creating are right for me or aligned for me?
Mhm.
And I have it that there's actually a lot of feedback that we get.
Absolutely. Check in. Just stop for right now. Stop for a second and check in with yourself. Check in with your body. What are you feeling? Where are you noticing it? What is it trying to tell you? What does it need? What do you need in this moment?
Yeah,
Is
I
the
love that.
structure that you've created in your life, in your daily life, is it working for you right now?
And, I'm just going to throw this thought out there just because I feel like it's important to say. And that's why a lot of y'all who are in corporate might feel the way that you do, because
Uh-huh.
it's a super patriarchal masculine structure. And anyone who wants a shred of the sacred feminine flow ain't getting it from corporate. You hear me, corporate? I'm calling you out. Someone has to. Your structure doesn't work because I coach a lot of your clients and they're miserable. And they could be performing a lot better if you would chill a bit. Okay. I had to throw that in.
There's a lot of energy around that, Jen. Where's that
I had to
coming
throw
from?
that in. I have such a painful time watching so many brilliant souls
Yeah.
do so much personal development, reframe their mindset,
Mhm.
and no matter what they do, it seems like they are not able to work within the structure they're in to make it budge.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, I have a dream of getting into corporate environments and I mean every corporate environment should have some level of coaching available or meditation available, grief work, any of it, right? Trauma work, stress reduction, all of it should be available at any given and supported in that of, okay, it's available for anytime you need it.
And those of you who are doing that, if you're a corporation and you're watching, way to go,
Exactly.
because your employees feel seen, they feel heard, they feel cared for.
Mhm.
And I love when that happens. But and it's interesting, right? Because I do a lot of talking now with structures where it seems like a lot of the work that I'm doing with myself and my clients, the structure we're really going for is one that really lets us kind of feel that divine masculine and that divine feminine kind of flow.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that.
All right. I take notes just like a real coaching call. And I
Mhm.
just look and I'm like, yeah, okay. Where are we at here? And one thing I want to say to our guests, because I know that sometimes when we are having these conversations and we've done a lot of work already, sometimes people can be like, well, you make it sound so easy. I don't know how to feel it in my breath. I don't know how to feel it in my body. You all, that's where sometimes what you might need is to bring in a professional. And I'm not saying it's got to be a long drawn out package. It might just be one session. Sometimes when someone holds space for us, we're able to kind of take our hands off the wheel a little bit, let go, and really get a more accurate read on what's really going on.
Mhm.
I know sometimes for me, if I'm like really trying to hold on tightly, when someone else comes into the space and helps, I'm like, oh, I can just let go. You're going to kind of guide me a little bit. And oh, wow, I'm present to a lot more.
Mhm. Yeah, that to me feel it reminds just, coming from the meditation world, it reminds me of a guided meditation versus a sitting quietly for 20 minutes by yourself, where sometimes you're needing that guided meditation to really get you into your body because your mind's not letting you. It's like training wheels
Yeah.
where it's not, you don't graduate from training wheels in the world of meditation and then you're done with it. Some days you need that support, you need that structure more than other days of, yeah, I'm going to need somebody to guide me through this one today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Or I'm even thinking, like maybe you are just really a little bit tense, stressed, and you can't get the read as much. That's even where sometimes being a student in a yoga class or something, right? Like the
Hmm.
first 5 minutes when the teacher is like having you check on your breath, your body, all
Hmm.
that stuff. Like even that, I think sometimes you're able to get feedback that you're not getting on your own.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just having someone else like invite you to look.
exactly. And that's, part of coaching too, is that accountability that we hold for our clients. Somebody who's there to remind you of your bigger goals. You create structure for something larger, not just the check off of the to-dos of the day, not just about, you know, um, making a calendar that says breathe on it at 12 o'clock every day or whatever it is. It's an elevated goal that we're reminding you of, in that structure, you created it for something larger.
Yes, I love that. And so you all like we're giving you a lot of examples because the cool thing about what we're talking about is it's really contextual stuff, these conversations.
Yeah.
And the context can embed itself in any place really, right?
Yeah.
But so I hope as Kim and I are talking, you're able to find the place that you can see it and you can hear it. But that's what we're really talking about here, is that when we find our on the continuum, our midpoint, our sweet spot of flow, not rigid, not drifting, but intentional flow, that is going to be where we do get that sense of freedom,
Hmm.
where we feel almost like the structure, I think, is simply just roots holding our tree to the earth
Hmm.
so that when the wind comes by, we get to blow and stay put. But that's really what we're talking about, whether it's in a coaching relationship, a coaching conversation, meditation, like the structure that you work in, the structure of your family dynamic. It could be anything.
Mhm.
And so what we're proposing is that you might not like this. It's going to look different for everybody, right? And I think this is the challenging thing. Sometimes we want that expert to tell us what it has to look like or what we need.
Oh
And oh boy, I don't know about you, Kim, but the structures in my life to create freedom, they change all the time.
yeah. Change all the time.
They change all the time. Do you notice that with you or with your clients?
Oh, yes, definitely. You think you're on a good track and you've got your structures down and it's working for you, and you get to just cruise the rest of the way, and just not how it works. Because one day you crash and you're like, damn, I thought I was doing so well. But we change, we evolve, and with all the evolution that we go through, the transformation that we go through, we have to also change our structures that are working for us, and being honest about it. This isn't working for me anymore.
Yeah, right. Like one of my structures for great cardio, it used to be running. I used to race and all that stuff. And then when I got into a car accident and broke my pelvis, running never felt good. I
Hmm.
really, really wanted it to be a structure that worked for me,
Yes, resistant to changing that
right?
structure
And
that was
I had to
working
get
so
honest
well.
that this hurts. This doesn't feel good for me. My recovery takes a long time now. It feels like I've been beat up a little bit, and I had to be honest about that, and I didn't want to be.
Yes, right. And I think that, self-awareness and then self-compassion of allowing a structure to not work anymore, even though you are clinging to that desire to want it to still work as it did. And I can relate to you so much, Jen, with my yoga practice, where I've got three degenerative discs that have just gotten worse over the years. And, things I used to be able to do in yoga easily are now difficult for me.
Yeah.
And I'm really, it's a conversation that I have with myself in yoga every time, of, the beating myself up for not looking a certain way. Like I used to could be able to do this thing, and now it's a struggle. And then recognizing the negative self-talk that's going on, and kind of stepping back from that and watching it go on, like, that's not okay. Now what structure can I put into place now, which is the structure of self-compassion, and being okay with what is, and meeting myself where I am.
Yeah, I love that. And y'all, that's I think the beauty when you have people on your team who are looking out for you. Like I was working with a one-on-one client, not in a package. She had been with me for a long time, so we took that structure out. She was able to do it when she wanted to and have more flow. And
Mhm.
she recently joined one of my groups that I run, because what I told her was, I don't think the one-on-one structure is for you anymore. I think you're actually spending too much time alone. And I think you need to be in a group of people reflecting your awesomeness back at you. Because I just don't think you're kicking it with enough powerful people right now to do the things that you tell me you want to do. And perfect example, one-on-one worked great until it didn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I can't take her money in this session. I don't see anywhere to go with her, because it's clear she's under supported and this isn't the support. And so that's also the gift, of being in relationships with friends, family, professionals that you can trust, because they're going to tell you if they see that.
Yeah, I love that, Jen, and that really points to, we all have blind spots.
Yeah, right.
And to be in connection with somebody else to help you see those blind spots, then can alter the structure that you have in place for yourself, because we don't see ourselves in the same way that others see us.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, I love this. There's so many places we could go, right? Because like everything is a structure. It was funny, Kim, but before you and I got on today, I'm sitting there just, brainstorming in the shower and thinking, and I'm chatting back and forth with one of the gals who kind of runs a lot of stuff at Oprah Yoga here in Charlotte. And she's talking about, we have an outdoor studio, it's in full sun. And we're talking about how they're building a structure to support the awnings for shade. And we can't have shade until the guys get back from Colorado to build our structure. And I'm like, structure is everywhere, right? But without the structure for shade, we're not free anymore to practice midday out there because we'll be blazing.
Yeah.
So the structure for the awnings gives us freedom to be outside and do yoga when it's hot.
I love that.
My mind was going everywhere as I was thinking about this. And of course, the universe is providing me all these places to look.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, yes, we can there, yes, the way that we think about the word structure can, it really reminds me of a physical structure that you're talking about, a physical structure, our house being one of those, or apartment or condo or whatever it is, the place that we live in is a physical structure where outside of that, it's protecting us, it's supporting us, it's holding us away from the elements of nature so that we don't get caught up or be exposed to all the elements of what's outside all the time. We can go into our structure and feel held. And in that structure, we have the freedom to create what we want to create in our life.
Yes. And what that makes me think of, and I'm always watching time. So we'll kind of start winding it down. But it makes me think of one, for anyone watching this, a great place to start looking is just noticing, I think, your response right off the bat when you hear structure, when you hear freedom. And certainly I always want to throw in that, y'all, I'm sensitive when I'm using the word freedom. I am mindful that there are structures going on in this world that do make different groups. It makes it more challenging to have freedom. We're not talking about those types of structures, where they matter. We want to, bring them down and create new ones that are all encompassing. But we're really talking about the work that we can be doing within, because there is a large sense of freedom that we can create within, no matter what's going on around us. So it's kind of a different conversation, if you will.
Beautiful distinction. I love that. Yeah.
But, I always want to be mindful to say that because, I'm paying attention. I know what's going on out there. And, we're talking about a little bit of a different thing. And so, as Kim and I have talked, it really made me present to, we can look around us in our life and in the world and see structures everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's really going to boil down to is, are we in the aligned ones for us? Are we seeing aligned ones out there? If not, how can we shift it? But it's really going to be that sweet spot, I think, when you're designing your life, to designing the structure, the flow, all of it in a way that works for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best thing I can say as we're winding up is, it's got to feel good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, speaks to finding your own alignment and happiness before you can attach it to something else, bigger than. So yeah, we can look around and see structures that we don't like all over this world politically, in religious realms, whatever the larger, global structures are that we align with or not align with, but bringing it back into what aligns here first so that we can then take it elsewhere and shift bigger structures.
I love that. I have seen my handful of people who identify as women who are really on the mission, to shift patriarchy, create more of the matriarchy. And some of these women are some of the most masculine, energetic bodied people I've ever met. And it's like, well, dang, you need to get the patriarchy out of your own being if you want to go on a global mission for it, right? Because you're coming out of your mouth right now.
I love that.
That could be a whole nother conversation, right?
Right. Possibly blind spot for this person as well, right?
Right.
Like, oh, really? That's coming out of
me. I was about to mention, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like the most masculine human I've ever met.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you all, we're talking about energy bodies, right? We're not talking about traditional female, male with gender identity going on. We're just talking about like the energetic creation within. Um, we
The
could just go
yin
all over the
and
place,
the
can't we?
yes, we could.
I mean,
Yep.
I get like 10 new ideas for shows based off one conversation.
I love that. You can just keep it going.
Mhm. Yes. So, Kim, as we are wrapping up here, is there anything you want to reiterate as we are closing down? Any final things that you feel called to share? And you all, this is how we do it in coaching too. You know, we're really wanting that client to kind of check in and see how we're leaving the space. Did we say all there was to say in the moment? Because you know we'll leave and we'll be like, oh man, there's 25 more things we could have said.
Yes, of course. Several things come to mind, Jen. I really, it's a personal conversation. I think that what I would like to leave people with is kind of reiterating what you were just saying, in that, check in with yourself around even the word structure and the word freedom, and just sit with that for some time. And what does that look like for you? And do you have structures in place right now in your life that are serving you? Or is it time for a change? And what does freedom look like for you? What does that mean for you? Um, I could kind of go on a road there, a path around, meditation and what freedom means, and that for me, and the structure of meditation, and where it has evolved into feelings of freedom in different areas of my life. But I will leave it. And the another thing that comes to mind that I want to say is just I'm so grateful for this, Jen, that you're doing this, that you're having these conversations, because I think they're also beautifully needed in our world. And
Right?
I love that you've opened it up and you have this platform. So I just want to express my gratitude to you and what you've created here
Oh,
and the
thank
structure.
you. You know, I feel like most people, when they think about hiring a coach, they don't think about, oh, I don't really know how to design my life or my career in a way that lets my sweet spot come out, that gives me a structure so I, can get my bills paid, so I can, if I'm an entrepreneur, call my clients back, but also lets us feel flowing. I don't think people think about coaching as a tool for that,
Yeah,
and so I'm trying to really get under there. And no, it's not just for quitting a job. No, it's not just for, whatever. It's for all these nuances where, in my opinion, that's where the magic in our lives really happen.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's these things that get us to the jobs, into the
Mhm.
relationships very often, right?
Right. Yeah, and you might hire a coach for the quitting a job or getting a new job, but you're going to come out with a whole lot of other stuff that you have worked on.
Yeah, because it's that other stuff that's in the way of the thing they want.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Kim, thank you so much for being with us. Everyone, thank you for being here once again, on wherever you're seeing this. Ways you can connect with Kim, follow Kim are going to be there. And again, if you are needing support with meditation, grief, Kim is your gal. And I know I can speak for Kim when I say this. We are a stand for people who want to be coaches, to know what that is, to find programs. We're a stand for people who want coaches, to find the best coach for them, and to know what coaching is. So if any of you watching want to be a coach, want to hire a coach, reach out. We're not going to try to sell you on anything. We're not going to try to force you to work with us. We just want people to find the training or the support structures that they
Exactly.
need, that they
Exactly.
need.
Yeah.
Because we're doing the work along with everyone,
Oh yeah.
doing the work in the trenches with you. Okay. We have
Yep.
coaches too.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you,
And you
Jen.
all, please share this if you know anyone who might want to hire a coach or who might want to be a coach. And we will leave you to it. And Kim, I'm just saying this now. I'll come and say goodbye to you. My gentleman yesterday went to say goodbye and I was like, where'd you go? Oh, he's
Oh,
gone.
I
So
know.
you all, it's been so magical to be with you. Thank you for holding space for this. And I'll be back next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.